Now. Hello, guys, and me and Jason, the old millennial. If you would like to introduce your channel.
Yeah, Jason, the old millennial. I talk about movies and music both. Kind of cover different rankings and lists of stuff that I like, and talk a lot about the '60s and '70s music mostly, and buying vinyl. I'm collecting vinyl, so love collecting and showing those off on the channel. And yeah, just doing a lot of live streams like this and talking about different albums I enjoy doing.
Yeah. Speaking of record collecting, this copy of Wednesday Morning 3 a.m. One of my first 5 records I ever bought.
Oh, really?
My very first record, Mamas and Papas, If You Could Believe Your Eyes and
Yeah,
Ears. This
right.
is my second ever record.
Okay.
So I'm very fond of it. So
Is that a hard one to get, or is it easy to get that record?
I forgot how much I paid for this. I think I paid like $15 for it.
Oh,
It's
okay.
not in the best condition. I just looked up Simon and Garfunkel Wednesday Morning 3 a.m. original pressing because I just wanted to have the album because I knew the Sounds of Silence was on there and I really enjoyed the
Mhm.
song. I'm like, I'm gonna buy the album it's on, and I really enjoyed it. But yeah, that's my backstory with this album. I just very fond memories of owning this. I own this album for about 6 years now, so one of
Okay.
my oldest owned records.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that font is so big on there.
Yeah, I know. It's like you get like most of the name of the album and the artist, and then you
It
just
takes up the whole album.
a little bit of the album cover. And they were from Queens, New York, and this is like a subway from New York. So
Yeah, yeah.
I lived in New York for a little while, and
Oh, you did?
yeah, my parents grew up in Brooklyn, and I don't
Oh,
know if this is a Brooklyn subway or if it's Manhattan, or I'm not sure though. But
yeah. You're an East Coast guy, aren't you?
yep. What's up? Nice seeing you here. We're reviewing the Simon and Garfunkel's very first album, and I wouldn't say every Saturday, but every episode we're going progressive. Like the next album will be Sounds of Silence, then Parsley Saves, Rosemary and Thyme,
Mhm.
and then Bookends. No, no,
Okay.
no. Yeah, Bookends, the fourth
Yeah.
album, and then we'll
And
go
then,
into the grand
yeah.
last album. Of course, everyone knows it, Bridge Over Troubled Water. Yeah. Hey guys, hope you're
All
all
right.
doing good. I'm doing great. I just mentioned to Jason before I started. I worked a 19-hour shift, so I was very tired yesterday. Crashed as soon as I came back. It was like 12 o'clock. I ate dinner and just crashed out. It was just
Oh, man.
crazy day. But Jason just told me he's tired because he was at the Kansas City
Yeah.
Zoo,
Kansas City Zoo today.
and I think we're gonna be seeing a video from that if anyone subscribed to his channel. If
Yeah.
not, subscribe right away now. But we haven't even gotten to the review yet. You Could Tell the World, which is not an original. This is a cover. I don't know who sings it. I remember listening to the original version, but what do you think about it?
Yeah, I think it's a cool way to start the album because I think it's the most upbeat song I think maybe on the album. It's a pretty fast-paced guitar strum, acoustic guitar strum here, and they're just going, yeah, just kind of right away they're going full force. I think on this one, and overall I think it's a really good song. And yeah, it's interesting. This whole album, I feel like there's a lot of religious themes in it, and this one
Yeah.
definitely is a big time kind of go tell the or you can tell the world. I'm guessing about maybe Jesus or something. And there's lots of joy, 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 and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, this is like such a religious type of song. I know the Herman, or I mean the Hollies started one of their albums kind of on a religious song as well, if I remember right. And
Yeah. So, uh, the very last day.
the very last day, yeah, which is another good song.
That's the third album. Yeah.
And the third album, yeah, and I like that song as well. And so it's interesting starting out on these kind of more religious themed songs that
Yeah.
works really well for the band or for the group here. And yeah, great acoustic guitar playing. I mean, Paul Simon. I mean, I don't know how old they are. They're pretty young here. I'm guessing. I don't know if they're early 20s at this point or.
Oh yeah, they're very young. I don't know if you know this, but they started out a record deal when they were really, really young.
Yeah,
Called
yeah,
Tom and Jerry, and
right.
yeah, crazy, right? How
Yeah,
how how these young guys just like ended up, and then they became Simon and Garfunkel. And
and they're from New York. Yeah, like you were saying.
yeah, as a well, I'm not in New York anymore. I'm a Pennsylvania now, but
Yeah,
as someone who has New Yorker parents, like seeing
yeah,
these young people from New York, like I think
yeah.
Loving Spoonful were from New York. I knew the mamas and papas were at New York at some point during
Okay.
their formation, and just seeing these young people from like New York just start out making great music and just proving that not all people from like not only like just not only the UK were making great releases like this album. And I think this came out in '64, I think. But and then this album proved that like not just the British invasion, like these teenagers from the UK
Yeah,
were making great music. That us Americans, us Yanks were making great music. And yeah, this is a great cover. Like you said, very upbeat. Much more upbeat than a lot of the other songs. I just noticed on my record, on the label, it says "exciting new sounds in the folk tradition." I haven't noticed
yeah,
that. It's weird. I'm so used to just putting the record on and not even looking at the label in there. I'm like, oh, it says "exciting new sounds of the folk tradition." Interesting, but yeah, I think it's quite a good song to start off your album making journey.
yeah,
Next track, last night I had the strangest dream, which is also not an original.
yeah,
I don't think I've ever heard the original, but what do
yeah.
you think about it?
I thought it was really good. Again, I mean, just it's interesting, like listening to this record because um, it's not one people don't talk about this one probably as much as the other one. It's not as big as the other one. I mean, in fact, the whole record didn't sell well. I think when it came out, and that's why
Yeah, it didn't sell well, and
yeah,
they broke up.
they broke up.
Paul Simon, I forgot what Garfunkel did, but Paul Simon went to the UK. He made
Yeah, yeah,
I he Paul Simon songbook, and
mhm.
that's to me that's one of my top 10 favorite
Yeah.
records of all
Oh,
time. So I'm kind of glad this album didn't sell because he wouldn't have made it
uh-huh.
like a bunch of like kind of demos of what would become a few songs that would end up going on the Sounds of Silence,
Yeah,
that's Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Time album, and some songs he reused from this album. He Was My Brother, I think, was one of them, and Sounds of Silence was another one.
right. Yeah, yeah.
And I think it worked out because I've always loved Paul Simon's songbook. Have you ever listened to that album before?
I don't think I have. No. Can
It's really good.
I get
Barely
on Spotify?
has a good point. It's just a demo album. Like
Yeah,
it's just like songs that just would end up being on Simon and Garfunkel review albums. And I understand where he's coming from, but I think it's a masterpiece. But
but
yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Even in this song, I mean, even this album, though, the harmonies are just amazing. Like throughout, like, I mean, they just had the right sound. Those two voices just work really well together. Uh,
yeah,
Garfunkel has just an amazing tenor voice, just works right on top of Paul Simon's, and just about every song. I'd say I like about every song on here. It's just because their vocal, their harmonies work well, and Simon's already great. I mean, he doesn't write a lot of songs on here, but he's already becoming a great songwriter. He's a great guitar player. Anyways, this song is more of, if I remember right, has a banjo in it. Is that right?
yeah.
Yeah, and which I wasn't expecting. I remember I was listening, going, "Oh wow, look at this banjo," and
Mhm.
it felt like a bluegrass song to me. Like I've never heard them do really bluegrass, but I'm like, this is totally like a bluegrass, band kind of song, and it worked for me. I really enjoyed it.
I think I agree with you. It's an amazing soft number, putting an end to war. That's my favorite lyric. It's like we all agree to put an end to war.
Yeah, oh, that's great. Yeah,
And you know what I like about this album too is if you want to hear like just Paul Simon singing, listen to one side of the
oh yeah,
thing, and then if you want to hear just Garfunkel, put on the other side. And I've always thought of that like I could think of it as like either a Paul Simon solo album or a
yeah,
Garfunkel solo album on one side, and then like if you put both of them together, or just put
together.
mono setting on your speakers, it'd be like a Paul Simon and Garfunkel album. I've always thought of that as a cool thing. For the past year, like few years I've been listening to this album, I just listen to Paul Simon, but I agree Garfunkel has such a beautiful voice. I I've always been a Paul Simon guy. I know I'm in the minority for saying that. I know everyone's used to me at this point saying controversial things. I sometimes I don't know. But yeah, it's such a beautiful song. Next song, which is written by Paul Simon, Bleecker Street. And what do you think about that?
Oh, I thought it was a great song. I really liked Bleecker Street. Another, again, just I'm gonna repeat myself. Just beautiful harmonies, great. And Paul Simon is one of the best uh, acoustic guitar player at picking. I don't know, like the way he picks the acoustic guitar and makes those sounds is beautiful. He's just, I don't know, the song's beautiful. Like I like his playing. Like I think of like Paul Simon. I mean Paul Simon. I think of Paul McCartney is like a great, at that as well. Just coming up with these great melodies with the guitar, the acoustic guitar like that, and also a lot of other ones you can put on there like Jim Croce maybe, or
Yeah,
James Taylor. I don't know, John Denver. All those people I enjoy. Anyways, but yeah, I really love this song.
yeah, I really enjoyed. It's funny in Manhattan, New York. There's a street called Bleecker Street,
Okay.
and we used to go get me, my dad, and my little brother, and my mom. We would get pizza there, and there was a place called John's Pizza, and every time I would go there, I would think about the song because be like, "Oh, we're going to Bleecker Street," and I'm like, "Oh, the Simon and Garfunkel song." And at first, I'm like, "Oh, it might be a cover," but when I saw it was written by Paul Simon, I'm like, "Oh, it's cool." He wrote a song about a street in Manhattan, Bleecker Street. I always thought that was so cool, and every time we go there, I'm like, "Oh yeah, the song that Paul Simon wrote, Bleecker Street." Always get happy whenever we have to not have to every time we pass that street. I'm like, oh, Bleecker Street. Uh, yeah, it's a great song. Next song, Sparrow, which is another amazing original. But what do you think?
Yeah, Sparrow is really, yeah. Again, I really like the song. It's interesting. It kind of just it tells a story, kind of,
Yeah,
and it feels like almost like I don't know, a child's like nursery rhyme story or something. I don't know. So, because it's this, who's going to help the sparrow, and then you got all these different animals, I guess, or something like I'm not going to help the sparrow. I don't know, nobody wants to help the sparrow, and then finally, in the earth, I guess the earth somehow says, "I'll help the sparrow." Anyways, so it's kind of cool. I like the storyline of that. And I love how they start. I think it's one where they're like, who
ooh, loving the little sparrow.
I love how they did that. And then when they kind of switch it up when they kind of do the answer of "not I" said something. Like I love how they
Yeah,
contrasted that.
right. And
Yeah,
Paul Simon's really like he's shine like a lot of these like this early album like it focuses on kind of both of them, but then there's Garfunkel has his moments like Sounds of Silence, which we'll get into, and then this song like you can really hear Paul Simon rocking out to the song,
yeah,
not rocking out, but basically what the price is like. Boom boom. I'm
yeah,
not really good with the words either, but
yeah.
I haven't listened to this album in a long time. I'm just going by off of memory, which
Right.
I listened to this album like thousands of times. So I don't, because whenever I listen to an album like hundreds and hundreds of times, I don't have to re-listen to it before a review. If we're doing a review on this one Rush album you're not familiar with, or just an album I'm not familiar with, then I'll have to listen to it again a few times to
Yeah.
review it. But yeah, such a great song, and I really like it. Yeah. Uh, Benedictus. I don't know if I said that right.
I think
This is non-original. This is one of the traditional folk songs, but it was arranged by Paul Simon, though. Like the music
yeah,
was arranged by him.
yeah.
What do you think about it?
Yeah, to me it's the weakest song on here just because it's they're just singing kind of in Latin or something, and it's not
Yeah,
really not much to the song. It's not there's just kind
mhm,
of I don't
that's fair.
know.
I
There's
agree
nothing
with
to
you.
it. It's just
I agree. Well, we're gonna go to top 5 songs and a dishonorable song, but we're probably gonna agree that this is gonna be the dishonorable song. But even then, even though it's the weakest track on this album, it's still a really really good track, and
Still beautiful though, I will admit.
yeah, that's how great they were. The only
Yeah,
song that I like skip is that old people's voices track,
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
and
me
I
too.
don't really skip that track too much because it fits the mood of Bookends because it's
Uh-huh.
supposed to tell a story, and it
Yeah.
even then it's not the worst thing that I've ever heard. It's no temporary secretary or Revolution 9, but
No, right.
yeah. Well, speaking of a great track though, we get to Sounds of Silence,
Yeah.
and which was written by Paul Simon, which a lot of people should know. And what do you think about it?
So that ends the side one. Is that
Yeah,
right?
that ends up side
Man,
one.
a good ender to side one.
Yeah, it ends.
Um,
Well, I'll go into what I think about it. What you think?
um, yeah, it's one of the greatest songs ever written. Song. uh, I did my top 10 favorite Simon Garfunkel songs recently. This was number one on my top 10. It's like their first big hit. I mean, and this isn't even the version that's the big hit,
Yeah.
really. It's the next version on the next album that's the number one hit.
What do you prefer?
Um,
I always forget.
I prefer the electric version actually, just a little bit. I think they're both great though. Like I love both
Yeah,
versions, and I think it's only because that's the version I'm used to.
fair
And when
enough.
I listen to this acoustic version, my brain, I think
You
about
just
the
you just
drum.
like, oh, I'm missing something. I
Yeah,
get
I'm
it.
missing something.
Get it.
My head's like, oh, there's drums here. I'm like, oh, there's a little guitar thing here that's not in there. Like, so it's my brain kind of wants to play the original in my head as I'm listening to it. I think you're the acoustic, I think, right?
Yeah, I'm
I think
Team Acoustic.
you and Briar were acoustic, and like me
Yeah,
and Garrett were electric or
the
something like
only
that.
reason why I say that though is because it suits the dark nature and the sad lyrics it goes with. Because I feel like the electric version's a little too upbeat, and
Okay.
it makes it more upbeat than it should be. And
Okay. Yeah.
Paul Simon was trying to go for a depressing
Yeah.
song, and
Yeah.
the electric version just makes it a little too
Yeah.
lighthearted and a little too
Right.
like, and not only that, but this is the version I'm used to, the acoustic version. So it's kind of like what you said, like it's all about what we're used to sometimes,
Yeah.
and it's about
Uh,
what I'm used to, and it's just I like the more darker nature of it. And if you want to hear a really really dark version of it, listen to the Disturbed version, which
yeah.
that's not like that's even more darker than the
Yeah.
acoustic version. And I think Sounds of Silence is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's my top 10, but it's still a great song.
I
That's how great they were. Like same with the Beatles. Like people would be like, "Oh, Hey Jude's like a top 10." I don't think it's a top 10, but it's a masterpiece. Like
Yeah.
that's how I could tell if a band's great or not. Like a real great band is if people say it's a top 10 and I don't think it's a top 10, but I still think it's a masterpiece. That to me is a telltale sign of a really great band slash artist.
Yeah. I said in my review, the first line is, I think, maybe my favorite line in any song. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Like, I don't know. I just love that line that starts it.
Yeah,
It just
it's
really sets the mood. I
Paul
don't know.
Simon. Paul Simon, really great lyricist.
Oh, this is such a well written song. I love Silence Like a Cancer Grows. I don't know. I've always loved that lyric as well.
We'll get to more Paul Simon's writing when we get into Sounds of Silence because
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
writes a lot more songs on that.
Yeah.
That's why I could see why a lot of people would rank this album the less. I think I've rated this the second highest.
But you liked it a lot more than the other three. Well, hello. Am I still on? I guess. And don't know what happened to our host. Talking about Wednesday morning, 3 a.m. Talking about the sound of silence. Uh, boy, I don't know what happened to Nick there. Well, okay. Computer closed him out. Okay, he's going to be back on a little bit. I don't know if I just stay on here and he'll be back on this stream here. Yeah, and just say about Sound of Silence. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. My computer closed me out of my tab, and I'm like, "You son of a bitch!"
It's like, oh no,
I'm like, "Oh my god!" Like,
I was like, he's the host. What happened there?
I was really afraid that it was gonna close out the stream, but thankfully it didn't, because I was gonna have to like make a new one, like me and Jason
Yeah.
journey through Simon Garfunkel's discography, episode 1.2 or something. Like,
Yeah.
sorry about that. But what were we going
What
over?
were we saying?
I'm already forgetting.
I know. We're talking about Paul Simon's writing, I think.
Yeah, and that well that Paul Simon gets, like, he writes more songs, and he gets better and better throughout the 60s, and
Yeah.
I well I think we're going over how much I prefer the acoustic version, and
Right.
that, and yeah, it's just such a great way to end off side one. And
Yeah.
when I first heard this album, I'm like, wow, this is such a great album. And
Yeah.
yeah, and well, before we get to side two, I always like to read through comments, like before I get to the second side.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
the acoustic version for me, but both are great. Yes, I agree.
I need
The
Brian.
version's amazing, great. I'm not going to be like, it's popular, it's crap. Same with the with the Beatles, where it's like, I love the Beatles, so and I'm like, they're not, to me, they're not my favorite band
They're not your
anymore. But
favorite.
I'm not like, the Beatles are popular, they're shit now.
Right. Right. Yeah.
The Beatles are too popular for me to like. Screw
Yeah.
the Beatles. No, I'm like, it's just preference. I'm like, yeah, I like this better, and I'm not gonna be like, oh, if you think that if you agree with the masses, you're crappy. No, I'm not. Some people are like that, and I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, just no. If you have a popular opinion, you have a popular opinion.
Yeah.
It's the Jason show now.
Yeah, it was for a second. I was like, well, what do I do now?
You're probably like, what's going on? No, but I've been texting you on Messenger just so,
Yeah.
because I didn't know what was going on. But
I was
yeah.
like, do I shut off the stream? I was like, I don't know what I do.
I'm glad you stood on. But speaking of Jason, not Jason, Breyer, I bought my Fifth Dimension Birds album. I don't know if you saw my video on because I did a track versus track video, and
Yeah.
here is my Birds album. It's a 1966 original pressing in shrink wrap, and sounds pretty good. But I just wanted to let Breyer know that. And well, that's all the comments now. But
Okay.
side two, he was a brother.
He was my
He
brother.
was my brother. What do you think about it?
Yeah, really good song. Paul Simon, one of the best vocal works, I think, on the album. I think you can tell the world's also, Paul's really, belting it out at points. Yeah, and it's a song about, I kind of saw the lyrics a little bit, like I was trying to look at the lyrics as I was listening to it. And it's something about a brother, he gets murdered, evidently. And I don't know if this is like a real brother or whatever. His brother gets murdered. And I don't know if he's protesting for freedom or something. I don't know, because it almost seems like a political freedom.
Like it's supposed to be like a black rights thing, because that back then there was like a lot of racism going on, and this is like one of the more dark, really, like what to me the darkest song on the album. A lot of people say Sounds of Silences, but this is really dark, and they shot my brother dead.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and he hated what was wrong, and this song doesn't get me emotional, but the Paul Simon version off his first album always gets me for some reason, and I never know why. I think it's because it's him by himself, no Garfunkel. It's just by himself, and for some reason, it always gets me emotionally, and that's like one of the many reasons why it's one of my top favorite albums of all time. And some people are like, it's just an acoustic album. How great is it? But to me, it's personal, and that's probably the reason why I put it up so highly. But
yeah, he died for freedom. He died for you and me, or something like that, I think was the last lines. But I love at the very end, they crescendo a little bit, or they get a little bit higher pitched, and it changes the song a little bit. I mean, the way they sang it. So I love that they kind of changed up the end where they really belt it out. Yeah, overall, really good song.
Yeah. Next song, Peggy-O.
Peggy-O, another good song.
It's a traditional song. It's not written by Simon.
Not written by Simon. I don't remember much about it. I just listened to this morning and I already forgot what the song was, but I know I like it. I just remember liking it, but I can't remember the words right now.
Fair enough. Yeah, this is this is like the most unmemorable song on the album. I don't dislike it. I think this will probably be my second least favorite song because of how unmemorable it is. But yeah, I'm excited to go over the next song though. Go Tell It on the Mountain.
Yeah, Go Tell It on the Mountain. This is a strange song to me because I mean this is a really famous hymnal that I sang when I was a kid going to church. We sang Go Tell It on the Mountain. It's one of the most popular hymns, whatever. So it's interesting to hear this on a
Simon and Garfunkel album.
Yeah, Simon Garfunkel folk album. All of a sudden I'm like, oh, like I'm back in church, like the hymnal. I mean, they changed it up maybe a little bit to fit their style, so that works. And it's fine. It works. It's weird to me that they picked this song.
That's fair. I used to go to church school when I was like really, really young. But this was one of the few songs that really stood out to me when I first heard the record. And really great song. Go Tell It on the Mountain. Jesus Christ was born. When I first heard the record, I thought it was really good, but every time I would play the CD, which I don't know if I have the CD copy on me, because I know I do have Wednesday Morning 3 a.m. on CD. It's not here, but one time I was just playing the song over and over and over. I'm like, this is such a really good song, and can't believe I've been throwing this song away for so many years, because there was like a point where I just never listened to this album, and I'm like, wow, I forgot how great this. Because the last time I listened to this record, I shouldn't say years ago, but last time, when was our Simon and Garfunkel album ranking?
Seems like it's a while ago now.
A while ago, so
months ago. Yeah,
that was the last time I listened to it. I'm like, wow, this song alone is what this song alone is what made me pick it as my second favorite. That was what we were discussing about. This is my second favorite Simon and Garfunkel record, and this is the Mew, Breyer, and Garrett.
Yeah,
placed at 5, and that's fair because a lot of covers.
Yeah,
not as much memorable songs. Like the only song that a lot of people know is Sounds of Silence.
Yeah,
Sounds of Silence, and for me, I own this. One of my first records, my first Simon and Garfunkel album. The amount of songs I really like off this album. There's like so many reasons why I have this as my second favorite Simon and Garfunkel album. At one point, I was thinking of putting it as my favorite Simon and Garfunkel album. No joke. I was really debating. I was like, is this really going to be better than Bridge Over Troubled Water? Is this really going to beat that album? And then I listened to both albums a few times back to back, and I'm like, we have to put Bridge Over Troubled Water over this. But
yeah,
the fact that I had a debate over it, though, just proves how much I really like this album. And this song, I've always loved it. The Sun is Burning. What do you think about that?
I thought it was a great song. Another just beautiful song. Again, it feels like they could sing anything and it'd be great because
they sound you know the term you could see this person could sing the song book. It sounds great.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Few bands I could say that about. I know the Hollies I could say that about. Simon and Garfunkel I could say that about. Beatles I could say that about. The Who I could say that about. Even though the Small Faces are my second favorite band, I wouldn't say that about them. But this is like one of the few bands I could be like, they could sing the songbook and they can make a hit out of it.
Make a hit out of it, yeah. Yeah, no, it's really good song. Another one. I mean, almost every song I really enjoyed. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I remember the acoustic number. I remember the acoustic intro and just being like, "This is such a beautiful song."
Yeah.
Okay.
Is the sun? The sun's coming to Earth and killing everybody? Is that what's happening in the song?
I think so.
I couldn't quite get what was going on. I was like,
It's not written by Diaz. Most of these songs, besides the first and last song on this side, are not written by him. So
yeah.
it's just another acoustic.
Something about the sun coming close to the
song.
earth, and I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah, it's one of those songs where you just listen to the music and
I was like, everybody's gonna
sometimes there's some songs where I mostly like lyrics, but it's like one of the few songs where I'm just like, yeah, I'd rather just focus on the music.
right. Yeah.
Because I don't want to really think too much about it.
Yeah.
Next song, Bob Dylan cover. The times they are changing.
Yeah. Wow. Bob Dylan cover on their first album.
Yeah. Well, the Birds did it. They literally have like 4 covers of Bob Dylan on their first album. Me and Briar went over that, but yeah.
Yeah, and this is a great. I mean, I love this song, Bob Dylan original. It's a great early Bob Dylan song, and so it's hard. I mean, you couldn't mess this song up. I don't think it'd be hard to. And yeah, it's a solid cover of it. They changed it up a little bit. There's a little bit of a change there. I think I prefer Bob Dylan though, if I be honest. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I like the Bob Dylan version, but this is fine. Yeah.
This is one of the few cases where I actually prefer the Bob Dylan original.
You too?
Okay. And yeah, I'm not gonna be like, how dare you do that?
Yeah, I know.
Even if I don't agree, I'm like, I disagree, but I'm not gonna be like, how dare you say that?
Dare you?
I'm gonna crucify you. No, but speaking of the times they are changing, the Birds did it, like I said, on their
And they did as well, didn't they?
And it's one of my least favorite songs by the Birds. And
yeah, it's
for some reason, every band that does this song doesn't do it right for some reason. The Birds didn't do it right. Simon Garfunkel didn't really do it right. The Hollies on their Bob Dylan album, they didn't really do it that good. And I'm going to be honest, I love the Hollies Sing Dylan album. I truly love that album. And a lot of people might be like, oh, it's just Dylan covers, though, like after their magnum opus, Butterfly. And I'm like, I don't, because whenever you try to look back on their albums and then you try to go for the, like, oh, how does this album compare to this album? Then ends up ruining it for them. And I think it's a great album. I think it's one of their best. I wouldn't say it's one of their best, but it's a great album. And I would say their cover of the times they are changing is the weakest track on that album.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, no version of the times they are changing matches or betters Bob Dylan's version.
Yeah, that's why I am.
To me, a telltale sign of that is if the Birds can't better it, and no one else can better it, because Birds were, because they were Bob Dylan, like, oh, this is the Bob Dylan band, this is Bob Dylan, blah blah blah. But the Birds, they were the Bob Dylan cover band. And
they're the masters at Bob Dylan.
And I was going over. You ever listen to My Back Pages?
Yeah.
And I was just going over on my channel and my track versus track video that their version of My Back Pages is their best Dylan cover. And not only do they better it, but I'd say it's one of their best songs they ever sung. And they released it as a single, as they should. Because so sometimes it's like, oh, they should have released it as a single. And the Birds did the right decision of making their version of My Back Pages as a single. And well, we went on a Bob Dylan cover rant, but all I just gotta say is Bob Dylan does the best version of the times they are changing. Some people might be like, oh, it's terrible, but for some reason, like I said, once I heard the Birds version, I'm like, not as good as Bob Dylan's. That's how I knew that the rest of the other versions I was going to listen to wasn't going to be as good. That. Wednesday morning, 3 a.m., the last track on the album, written by Paul Simon. What do you think about it?
Self-titled song. I really like this song. This is I thought this was one of the best songs on the album. Obviously after Sound of Silence, and of course I like that Paul Simon wrote it. He, I think, writes the best songs on here probably. It's kind of a hidden gem to me. Like, it's not one, I don't know if it ever was a hit. I don't remember ever hearing it before until I heard this album.
Yeah.
But I feel like this could have been like another hit song for him if they would have put it out. But in my opinion, I really like the song. It's a beautiful song.
I don't think it would have been a hit, but I think it's a masterpiece. But I don't think it would have went as far. And even the acoustic version of Sounds of Silence, I don't think that song would have been as big of a hit as if they didn't work on it. And I think it's a masterpiece. And what a great way to end off the album. The start and the last track, great. And
Yeah.
Yeah. 5 favorite songs, an album rating, and dishonorable track.
Okay. Trying to think, how did I do this? Um, I think I put He Was My Brother at number 5, Bleecker Street number 4, Sparrow 3, Wednesday Morning 3 a.m. 2, and then Sounds of Silence 1. Is
All
my
the Paul Simon songs.
Are they? Did
Yeah,
I?
but ironically, those were all the songs that Paul Simon wrote.
I didn't realize I did.
Yeah, I'm not. Hey, that's great.
That's good.
Number 5 for me. Sounds of Silence. That has to be a top 5. If you
Oh,
if you don't if you listen to this album and you don't put that at least in number 5, then I don't know what to say. Number 4, Bleecker Street. Number 3, Wednesday Morning 3 a.m.
okay.
Number 2, He Was My Brother, the Wednesday Morning 3 a.m. version. And my favorite song on the album, Go Tell It on the Mountain, which
Okay, wow.
interesting I say that, but
Yeah.
like I said, that was the one song that made me say, man, this is my second favorite, if not
Wow.
my favorite Simon and Garfunkel album. So, and what would your rating on the album would be?
Yeah, and I want to say, like, this album, it's so much different than the other other 5, in that this is really a folk album,
Mm-hmm.
or this is the most folksy album. I would say the other ones are more folk rock, maybe going towards it, because it adds electric, and drums and all that.
Yeah,
This is just acoustic guitar basically, and them two, I believe, singing. So it's definitely different, but still great. Like, they're just so great together. I'm such a huge Simon Garfunkel fan. I mean, they're my top 5 favorite, groups of all
yeah.
time.
Not that, but
Uh,
like I asked you if Simon and Garfunkel was CCR, and you said Simon and Garfunkel. So
yeah.
that told me right away. I'm like, oh, he's really into Simon and Garfunkel
Oh,
because CCR was a damn hit machine, and
I like see.
I'm kind of glad you picked Simon and Garfunkel. I'm like, because I knew you both you knew both you knew and loved both of those artists. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I wasn't sure because I love both of those artists. I'm like, I'm gonna let Jason decide, and that was a little tiny part of me was like, hopefully he picks Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10, and
Yeah.
it's still a really great album. The only thing that maybe hurts the album for me is that Simon didn't write enough songs on here, and even though the covers are fine, definitely, and it's hard, when, like I said, this is my 5th out of the 5 albums, and it's a really good album. It's my favorite, but the other ones are just amazing albums.
Yeah, just gets better and better.
Yeah, just, I mean, in the end with Bridge on Troubled Waters, I mean, man,
magnum opus.
magnum opus, and yeah, and that I would say, yeah, only that hurts it maybe, and just that it doesn't have some of the really big hits on here. Only one kind of real big hit on here. Even though the songs are fine, like I enjoy the songs, it just if it had more big hits on it, it definitely would have gone up for me, probably. But I have to, like that, but still, it's a great album. So I mean, to me, 8 out of 10, it's still an album I would get.
And what would your dishonorable track be though?
Yeah, Benedictus would be the one I'd probably take.
I agree. Like I said, I was just in case, like, if anyone joined. Well, I don't know if Briar was in the beginning when we went over that, but I agree. Benedictus is the weakest track. I'm not like, until we get to book ends, I'm not gonna say worst. I'm just gonna say weakest and
weakest.
And that and my rating will be 9.5 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't say it's a perfect album because it's nowhere near a perfect album. One, Simon doesn't write nearly as much songs like you said as he should. I don't have any problems with there not being a lot of hits on it. I'm not concerned about that, but just he has the talent of writing a whole albums with the songs, and his solo first album, Paul Simon's Songbook, proves it. That he's more than capable of writing an album full of songs that he wrote by himself. And that's about it with all that. And
Yeah, Briar.
At the end of the day, there is no bad Simon and Garfunkel.
There isn't.
There isn't. There truly isn't.
Yeah.
I can name two. I wouldn't say three. I would name two Beatle albums that I'm like, this album sucks. Like flat out sucks. Yellow Submarine, believe it or
Yeah.
not, is one of them. Believe it or not. Because Hey Bulldog, All Too Much and all that, but I don't like Beatles for sale.
I know.
There's great songs on it, 8 Days a Week, rock and roll music.
Mm-hmm.
Can't remember the track listing. And with the Beatles, those two albums are to me horrible albums. And some people might be like, why with the Beatles? And I'm like, after Please Please Me, I'm expecting more from them, but that's just my opinion. But I will say a lot of Beatle albums are better than a lot of Simon and Garfunkel albums. So it kind of balances out, I guess, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Bridge Over Troubled Waters. I mean, I know we get that later, but
Yeah,
that'd be the one that could compete with the Beatles for me. Yeah, it's one
yeah.
of
Like if you ask me, like Revolver, like I said, Bridge Over Troubled Water was better than Revolver, but that was just a rough draft, and I'm still thinking of if I want Revolver in my top 10 or not. But if you ask me like Revolver or Rubber Soul, I'm gonna say Revolver and Rubber Soul are way better than Bridge Over Troubled Water. But if you're asking me if I think the weakest Simon and Garfunkel album, which is to me Sounds of Silence, is better than With the Beatles or Beatles for Sale, I'm gonna say hell no. So it's kind of for me back and forth, and yeah. But this is our review of their first album, 40 minutes, which decent enough. A little time of it was just, discussing music in general, and me getting disconnected, sadly, and
yeah.
that sucked.
I can't edit that out, probably. Can
And I recorded 2 videos today, and I posted them track versus track.
Yeah.
Younger Than Yesterday versus Fifth Dimension, and George Harrison's 5th album, Dark Horse. And next video, I'm gonna be doing extra tech. My next video, I think, is gonna be Extra Texture by him. And, take 2. Stay in tune for that, and excited to do that. And thank you, Jason, for being on.
We're gonna be on Sound Lab Studios tomorrow, right?
Yes. Oh yeah, I completely forgot about that. Me and Jason and Briar, who's mostly in the comments, show us comment again. We're gonna be going on his channel, not Briar's channel, Garrett's channel, and reviewing Magic Touch by Genesis.
Invisible Touch.
It improved for me through another listen, but I've never been the biggest fan of Genesis. Phil Spector.
Yeah.
Phil Collins has never been the. It's funny. On my George Harrison review, I said Phil Collins with and I was trying to talk about Phil Spector. Today, I was trying to talk about Phil Collins, and I said Phil Spector. So, both mistakes there. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to record that, and our next video with me and Jason will be on their next album, Sounds of Silence. And anything else you want to say before the video ends?
No, it's just, man, I love this group. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to get better and better. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say our next discography deep dive will be CCR, and them too. They started out great, but then they became perfect. And
yeah.
That another album, but
yeah,
we're gonna. I'm not looking forward to episode 7, but we're gonna have to talk about it, and you don't have to listen to it. You could just go by memory and be like, yeah, going off memory. This one track, but like, yeah. But that's about it, and hope to see you guys next time. So have a good one, and bye.